whatever.
Sure. Order.
It's a retail secret, like whatever. I mean, tell it. Yeah, that's what I didn't think about that.
Or mention that, I'm okay with.
I was all over.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Tuesday, February 19th, 2019, 7 p.m. Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtzmeyer.
Aye.
Moheski. Patke.
Here.
Pettit.
Here.
Scornia.
Here.
Sullentrup.
Here.
Waterman.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meeting dated February 4th, 2019? Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtzmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Scornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Waterman.
Yes.
Having read the minutes, are there any questions or comments?
Make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Heidrich, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated February 4, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the city collector's report. It's an unaudited annual October 2017 through September 2018, and the public safety answering point records disposal request.
Any questions about either of those items?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Pettit, to approve the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the items. Thank you.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. Police department reappointments.
This evening, we have 3 reappointments.
Yes. First, good evening, everyone. So I have 3 fabulous, wonderful, fantastic, most extraordinary officers for reappointment today. Detective Betsy Schultz, Pat Moore, would you come up? Dan Carney was going to try and be here, but he wasn't able to make it. So Betsy is detective, and she is an interrogator extraordinary. She gets these guys to confess to all kinds of things, so it helps to put them where they belong when they do their things. And Pat is a most positive influence upon our younger gentlemen in our department. He's a good steering guy. So I would request that you reappoint the 2 of them.
Chief, are you doing all right?
Am I doing okay? I'm doing great.
Okay.
I am fabulous.
Okay, so tonight we have the we have the reappointments of Detective Betsy Schultz, Patrol Officer Patrick Morin, and Reserve Officer Dan Contarini. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I have to make a motion.
Sure.
So, Jeff? Okay, so a motion by Patke, seconded by Sullentrup to approve the reappointment. Okay, we can't vote unless we have a motion, obviously. So to approve the reappointment of Betsy Schultz, Patrick Morin, and Dan Contarini. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the reappointments. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for all you do. Betsy has her fan club back there with Nevaeh and Callie. So anyway, Kayla? Kaylee. Okay, there they are.
That's the astronaut. I wanted to meet her.
Yes. Well, it's good to have your fan club.
Public hearings, special use permit, short-term vacation rental dwelling, 346, 348 McLean Avenue.
All right, this is another request for a short-term lodging, Airbnb. This is actually a fourplex located at the corner of McLean and Horn Avenue, as you see here. So there is about 6 parking stalls here along Horn, and then 2 off-street along McLean, but with the long rectangular, there is additional on-street parking on McLean. We do not allow someone to request a special use permit just by unit. If they're going to request it, it has to be for the building in its entirety. So when you look at the application, they only have, I think, 2 of the addresses listed. They have actually long-term leases on 3 of the 4, and on the 4th one, they had it listed online. We sent them a letter, which we do often anytime we find these. They came in and said, yep, they'll apply for this and do the bed tax. So just so you all are aware, if this is approved, the entire building is permissible for a Airbnb short-term lodging. The applicant will just have to come in and apply for a separate bed tax for every single unit. For right now, they are just filling out an application for the 1 unit. So, and there was some concern at Planning and Zoning about inspections overall on the short-term lodging. The way this is set up since the occupancy program requires an inspection after every change of occupancy. We don't do that because this could be a different occupant every weekend. When they come in and apply for their business license and renewal of bed tax once a year, they have to set up an annual inspection. So that's how it's handled right now.
Any questions or comments?
And this did pass Planning and Zoning unanimously.
Make a motion, accept it in minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion.
Open up.
Oh, it's a public hearing. So is there anyone here tonight who would like to address this item? I think that's why Mark is here.
No, he's got a survey later.
Okay. Okay, so now we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Hydrich, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the item. Thank you.
An ordinance granting a special use permit for a vacation rental located at 346-348 McLean Avenue in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. This is the ordinance that follows the previous item. Any questions?
An ordinance granting a special use permit for a vacation rental located at 346-348 McLean Avenue in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Scornia,
Yes.
Waterman,
Yes.
Patke,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Sullentrup,
Yes.
Hydrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Rezone property at corner of 9th Street and International Avenue from M2 Industrial to R3 Multifamily Residential.
All right, this is a request to rezone this parcel at the intersection of International and 9th Street. It is currently zoned M2 heavy industrial. This whole area has been zoned heavy industrial since we adopted the zoning code, I believe, in =89. There is some industrial uses that are still active. However, in the general area, it's a mixture of uses. To the north, there is some repair that goes on there, but in reality, that is more of a auto sales facility. Obviously, this is the daycare just to the south, and then this R1B directly across the street is a mobile home park, and then we own the property from flood buyout property just to the south there. The applicant's requesting to rezone this to R3 multifamily residential in order to put multifamily housing on this parcel. It is about a half acre in size, meaning that under the new zoning code that we adopted last year, you could get up to 12 units there, the 1 unit per 30,000 square feet. That is just strictly based on the square footage. Realistically, they would have to fit parking, possibly some stormwater on there. It's 2 parking spaces per unit. And I don't see the applicant here. I'm thinking a lot of people forgot that it's got moved to a Tuesday. However, they did say at Planning and Zoning they plan to put 6 units there, townhome style with garages and then units on the top. Not that the style necessarily affects zoning. From staff's point of view, we did recommend approval. This is a fairly high traffic volume street on International. It's got a fairly intense use across the street with the mobile home park. not only intense, but also multifamily as well. So we think this is a good area for the requested zoning, and we did recommend approval, and it did pass planning and zoning unanimously.
Is it going to be out of the floodplain?
It is in the floodplain, so the applicant has stated last week that they are requesting a LOMA, a letter of map amendment. If approved by FEMA, then they would not have to take it out of the floodplain. If not, they would have to build it up 2 feet above BFE, which they are aware of.
Didn't the daycare raise theirs?
Yes, so this structure here, the newer structure in front is raised out of the floodplain. So if they would have to do this, something similar here, I mean, it's probably a little bit easier up here because it goes uphill slightly, but you'd be on a similar level.
How much
field.
of it's in the floodplain?
The entire parcel is in the 100-year.
It is. The applicant came in and discussed the situation with me prior to putting in the application. And, you know, without doing it, we don't require a topographic survey for zoning. So it is possible that that area is slightly elevated out of the floodplain, which a letter of map amendment through FEMA would verify that. If it's out of the floodplain, then the floodplain development ordinance does not apply. So, quite frankly, the daycare is, I believe, 3 foot maybe higher than adjacent grade, but that's because the daycare was in by almost 12 inches to 18 inches. So once you're in, you got to be elevated 2 foot above. But if you're out by, let's just say, 9 inches, you know, quite frankly, 1 inch, you could be out, then you're out. So the ordinance doesn't apply. So it is a little, now the risk, you know, the risk of flooding, I mean, I would say is pretty similar. It's just,
Whatever the map says.
the ordinance doesn't apply to you.
Right. And that's something we address once we get to site plan.
And they also always have the ability, that is not in a floodway, it's in a floodplain, so they have the ability to bring fill in and elevate it above. You know, that is always an option for them, so.
Okay.
Sal, what's the density requirement now? Is it 1 unit for 2,000?
Yes, I'm sorry, I said.
You said 3 earlier.
That's what it used to be. I
just wanted
apologize.
to
Yeah, now it's
verify.
1 unit down to 2,000.
Any questions or comments? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on this item? Okay, we'll need a motion to accept into minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Sullentrup, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the item. Thank you.
An ordinance rezoning the property located at 9th Street and International Avenue from M2 Industrial to R3 Multifamily in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. This is the ordinance that follows the previous item. Any questions?
An ordinance rezoning the property located at 9th Street and International Avenue from M2 Industrial to R3 Multifamily in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Scornia,
Yes.
Waterman,
Yes.
Patke,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Sullentrup,
Yes.
Heidrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
So, just real quick, it's 6 units, not 12?
That's what he. The applicant mentioned at Plan Zoning that he plans on 6 units. We would allow up to 12 with that zoning, but they would have to prove they could fit parking on site. You know, it'd be difficult for them to fit 12.
Okay.
Citizens' comments?
Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda?
Report of department heads. MoDOT traffic safety grants for 2019-2020 budget year.
Okay,
I need
Chief?
council's approval on a Missouri DOT traffic safety grant for 2019-2020. This is a grant we seek every year. This year, we're looking for hazardous moving violation enforcement of $7,000 for manpower, youth alcohol enforcement of $5,000 for manpower, DWI enforcement of $4,500 for manpower, and a stalker radar unit for $3,260. Total grant, $19,760. It's a 100% grant. I just need your approval. And there's a form that I need a signature from each of the council.
It'll be coming around once you approve it.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Patke, seconded by Sullentrup, to approve. Actually, this would be, we accept it, and then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other department heads?
Yeah, I can give you an update real quick on the landfill. Last Friday, we did, might have been Thursday, we did receive the authority to operate the new landfill cell. We do have a little bit of work to do yet. We need to connect the leachate pipe that's underneath the landfill that drains the leachate from the landfill. That work is ongoing right now. I would hope that that work is completed by tomorrow. Tony will be working on getting the road to get down into that cell, hopefully end of this week. And hopefully we start seeing some trash be put in the new cell. So we've finally got there. So we'll keep you updated. I know I'm going to be working with the Missouri on getting some photos and things once that road gets built. Try to get the information out, and we'll keep you posted on how things are going. There will be one final pay request. That would be a change order, obviously, because the project was kind of, I think I explained last time, that the project was essentially general construction by the city, just for sake of time. We did run up against a heck of a lot of weather. We are behind schedule. I know Tony's been pulling his hair out trying to find space to put the trash. So I think we are here at the end, and I will give you an update, obviously, on that final change order. So.
Any questions? Comments?
Can I speak about trash while we're talking about this?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Can you look into, if everybody else is okay with it? You know, I notice around town where people's got more than what they should be putting out for trash bags in front of their houses. I saw a couple of them had 15 bags sitting in front of their house. Can we look into how we can minimize the amount of trash that somebody can have in front of their house, or is that against the ordinance, Mark?
Yeah, the ordinance doesn't control that. You can put as much as you want out as long as it doesn't exceed a certain capacity of the
Yeah.
containers.
Yeah.
Weight limit. You just can be certain.
It's the size of the containers and the weight. It's got a 50-pound maximum unless you use these new cans that we've discussed. But there is nothing in the ordinance specifies a set number of cans. It says it just has to be in a, I believe it's confined receptacle. I don't know the exact verbiage, but yeah, we've discussed that. Staff has, Tony and I, have discussed that a lot when there's, 10, 15 cans sometimes in certain residences. I could see where there would be, some potential negative if you have a large family, how that would work. I would think that there could be an option, if you had, let's just say 10, just pick a number, 9, 9's a better number, 9 30-gallon containers. With these new 96-gallon containers, you can fit approximately 3 of those maybe in a 96. So you could condense it from maybe 9 to 3. However, you would be requiring that individual to purchase, if let's just say you put the maximum of 3 cans per unit, just throwing a number out there. Could just as easily be 5. But 3 cans per unit, if you were used to having 9 30-gallon containers, you could condense those into 3 and meet the ordinance, if that was the new ordinance. So that would be maybe one way to do it. Other concerns is if you have like upstairs apartments and downstairs apartments, how do you, I guess you would just say 6 at that stop, essentially would be the number. So I think it could be done.
I just see an extremely, a lot of bags sitting out in front of, could be a rental house, it could be somebody's home, or it could be a 2-family.
But that poses another question, John. Sorry, Steve,
Yeah,
but I think you're saying
bags.
that, well, if bags, it's got to be in a contained.
It does say contained. It has a 30-gallon maximum. Historically, we've allowed bags because we consider those to be contained. So we could, crack down on that definition a little more and start saying that they have to be in containers. But historically, we've not done that. A bag is
I wouldn't want to do that.
contained. Now, I would say Mark would disagree with me on that, but that's just how we've always done it, which is not a good answer.
I brought the same issue up
You did.
about a year ago, Steve, and we got in depth on it, and Tony got involved, and it was the same thing. It was kind of
It is definitely an ongoing issue.
because it was
especially
my
for us.
question too. Because I've seen one house. It's like every other week. There's like 15, 16 bags out there, and I'm like, how
That was
how
my
much trash?
question. Is it repeat offenders? I mean,
I
See it a
would
lot.
have to defer.
at the same place?
I see a lot of trash bags laying out by the curb.
I see them at a lot of
Get
houses,
15 of
same
them lined
houses.
up, I think, in my mind, a single family, 15 trash bags is an extreme. But since
I
we're
would
going
not
to go
disagree.
we're offering these containers now, maybe now's the time to look at this again and maybe come up with a plan to keep it.
If you leave it blanket as just, like I said, 3 is not, I just picked that number. So let's just say you have a maximum of 3 containers per unit, I guess is what it would be. Then we're not saying that it's 3 30-gallon containers, 3 45-gallon, 3 96. It could be any one of that combination, but you only get 3. And I think that could potentially, I mean, like I said, you're condensing 9 30-gallon ones into 3 96 ones. I mean, that's a pretty good meet in the middle. But you would be essentially requiring those individuals, if they need 9 cans, 9
But if you go
30-gallon
with
cans
the
to
containers,
buy.
you're gonna have less varmints get into your bags, which happens a
Yeah.
lot. When people put their trash out and get your cats and whatever else getting into your bags.
But not to be stereotypical, but those who have 15 trash bags out there aren't the ones that have 9 trash cans and are going to spend the money on 3 90-gallon trash cans. That's a couple $100 there. That's all. That would be a.
It's true.
It could be a significant outlay in cost.
Correct.
Could be.
But it could force them from,
Well, it would definitely clean up at the curb line on trash days, for sure.
that's what we're doing, is trying to ask people to buy these 96-gallon containers, right?
Yeah, we feel, staff feels that it's a positive for the homeowners to have this as an option. I think that the overall consensus around town is it's been a positive, and it really helps our operations. I would hope that this year you would see a decrease in workman comp claims.
That's the main thing.
And yeah,
I will say, it's
a
great that we
win-win.
have that added benefit for our residents, that they can go ahead and use that. But the biggest, one of the things that we looked at it from was the fact of less claims, hopefully, less, it's easier on our workers to go ahead and collect that trash. They're not picking up every single one of those cans. And the more we get participation, the happier we will be with that.
And John, I remember we talked about once upon a time, since it can be a workers' comp, since that grant kind of was because of that,
it came out of that.
diminished that.
Correct.
At some point in time, could maybe we look into a grant that would assist residents with purchasing those cans, a reimbursement sort of program to help with that, to increase the usage of those type of cans? Would that qualify,
Yeah,
perhaps?
we early on, we did a number if we had to purchase, I don't know, it was 5,500 cans or something, and it was a pretty large outlay of $300,000 if the city was to purchase one. And that's a pretty big capital outlay. Some of the other ideas we looked at was we could do some sort of a reimbursement program to where if you brought the receipt to, Public Works or my office or something, that if we had money allocated to that, we could reimburse you $25 or whatever the number would be if you purchase one of these toter cans. Now, that's just an idea. That's not anything out there. But would the MEM, if you could do that yearly and get $10,000 offset, would that be eligible? I don't think so, because it is purchase of equipment, but this is kind of a backwards way of purchasing equipment, so I'd have to look into that. But we could definitely.
Because that would be one way to kind of, it would be a meet in the middle sort of idea.
Yeah, so far we're getting, I had Tony, his guys have counters in the trucks, so we're counting stops that are utilizing the cans, so we can report back. I think in the first week, we were seeing around 10%, so we had 50 of them on a 500 stop day. So, I would hope for that after 6 months. So the word's getting out. Mailers just did go out this week in the last utility billing, so hopefully you guys saw those. But I think we've somewhat met our goal already, and we're trying to, that might have been a pretty small goal, but people are using it.
Just like Susan said, if we could get some kind of reimbursement, maybe some of the landlords, will start, okay, well, I get a reimbursement, I'll have 2 cans for my renters or whatever, and then they would utilize that, they would clean that up too, so.
We'll continue to look at grants. I mean, this is ongoing. We feel that, I mean, this is never,
ability.
we're not like at a point where
Oh, I know.
stop. We were going to keep
Right.
pursuing this and just seeing what's the best. Right now, we felt that with the new receptacles, it was just
I mean, it's
great for both parties. It was
Exactly. It's a
truly,
15
truly a win-win, so.
Well, and on that note, John, and I guess more Tony, I challenge you to relay that to your workers. I talked to a few guys on the trash trucks in the last week or so, and they're like, yeah, but it just takes us longer. I'm like, that's okay. That's fine. You know, you don't want to sit there and just keep chucking and hurt your back. So I think some of those guys don't realize that, and that we're not going to be hound them on the quickness of picking it up, but yet more safety aspects. So just those guys, their answers to me were, you know, it slows us down. But reiterate to them that that's okay, and we do it right, and it'll be fine.
Well, this truly came out of a summertime workman's comp situation where we had a couple employees overheat because they were moving too fast. They wouldn't slow down. I mean, that's where the whole concept was, hey, how do we slow these guys? How do we slow them down? And how do you tell an employee to slow down working? It's counterintuitive. So the solution is let's get some equipment to force them to slow down, to press a button and take an 8 to 10 second break. I mean, that's where the whole idea, that's where it all kind of came from. So I agree. We've been trying to drive home that, there was a double route day today on a snow event tonight, so that today was not a good day for operations. But, just to let them know that we're looking for alternatives to try to help them on their day-to-day to make their job easier, work smarter, not harder.
Right.
And this is a prime example of what we're doing. So, yeah, we can always do better to drill it down. We are being I would hope operations is really drilling down that if you have a toter can, if it has the ability to use a hydraulic lift, you better be using it. That's it. There's no excuses to not use it. Speed is not an excuse. So we will continue to harp that for sure. So I can definitely look into it, Steve, and we can maybe come up with a, what we'll do is maybe we'll have Tony kind of do, when he's out on the routes, just do maybe like a little survey of these residences that have over 5 cans. And we'll just do that a couple weeks, try to get a little survey out, internal to figure out how many of these residents we have, and then see what kind of effects that would have financially and everything else, report back.
Appreciate it.
Anything else?
Ordinances and resolutions. An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, and the Washington Chamber of Commerce, also known as Washington Area Chamber of Commerce.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
This first one is the agreement for the Community and Economic Development Director position. Over the years, we have had an agreement with the Chamber. They have in the past paid $14,000 annually towards the salary for that position. This is now bumps that up to 30% of the base salary. For this case, it would get it up to $17,000 a year. So this is good for 3 years, and then we will go back to reviewing it again.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, and Washington Chamber of Commerce, also known as Washington Area Chamber of Commerce. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, and the Washington Chamber of Commerce, also known as Washington Area Chamber of Commerce, doing business as Washington Town and Country Fair.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
This is the second agreement that we have for you from the Chamber with the city. This one has to do, obviously, with our fairgrounds, and it's our operating agreement. In the past, we've kind of had this as a, you'd have to trace it back to the minutes to find out how much we would go ahead and pay. That's how long we've been operating under this older agreement, let's just call it that way. That was, I think, $14,000 a year as well for that. They still are responsible to go ahead and pay for police, but we also provide them, though, with equipment if it's reasonable with regards to support services. They basically have the fairgrounds then from July the 5th through August 31st for that fee. There's $20,000 a year that they pay. They also pay us an additional 10% over the net proceeds over $200,000 per year. So if they do well, we get extra. So that's part of the agreement. Again, this is for a 3-year deal, and we'll revisit again at that time.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and the Washington Chamber of Commerce, also known as Washington Area Chamber of Commerce, doing business as Washington Town and Country Fair. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 1911978 and enacting in lieu thereof an ordinance authorizing and directing acceptance of the bid from Joe Mockins Ford, Columbia, Missouri, and approve the purchase of a 2019 Ford F-550 truck with snowplow and spreader, and amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. Tony?
This is the truck we spoke on the last council meeting. We approved a purchase. After the council meeting, we realized that we had an oversight in our spec. The spec showed a diesel engine, but at the bottom, it also had a line item to remove the diesel engine and put the gas engine in. And when it came back, the dealer was like, well, we thought it was a gas engine, and it was not. So we had to redo the bid. We got the new bid price about $7,000 more, and it is for a diesel engine. Unfortunately, the gas engines just will not work with the snowplows that well. We've had safety issues with them previously and other experiences, so my fault. We oversaw it and tried to get it straight. At least we didn't order it yet, so.
And then wasn't there a savings, though, in the big picture here?
In the overall budget, we're still $59,000 under budget because of the tractor we decided not to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're switching it around.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 1911978 and enacting in lieu thereof an ordinance authorizing and directing acceptance of the bid from Joe Mockins Ford, Columbia, Missouri, and approve the purchase of a 2019 Ford F-550 truck with snowplow and spreader, and amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Region Welding of Union, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of heavy equipment hauler trailer and amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. Tony?
This is a trailer we are buying in lieu of a new truck. Instead of buying a new truck to haul our old trailer for our equipment, we are buying a new trailer, and we're going to use some of the trucks we already have, our tandem dump trucks, to haul our high lift around, our backhoes, and larger equipment. So this is going to be a big savings for us.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments?
An ordinance accepting the bid from Region Welding of Missouri, Union, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of a heavy equipment hauler trailer and amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a First Amendment to agreement to sell and purchase real estate by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, and Carlene Holtmeyer and Claudette Dagley.
Holtmeyer. Go ahead.
Introduced by Councilman Patke. This is the ordinance.
This is just following what we talked about a couple weeks ago, amending that extension. So it's to March 15th now. That was not actually, it was to March 1st last we talked about it. The title company just needed a little bit more time, so.
Okay. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a First Amendment to agreement to sell and purchase real estate by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, and Carleen Holtmeyer and Claudette Dagley. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Hatchkey?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Clark Equipment Company doing business as Bobcat Company and to approve the purchase of an E55 T4 Bobcat compact excavator and attachments and a T740 T4 Bobcat compact track loader by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke. Chad?
This is what we were planning on doing. We talked about a couple weeks ago about trading our backhoe in and getting these two pieces of equipment.
Any questions?
An ordinance accepting the bid from Clark Equipment Company doing business as Bobcat Company and to approve the purchase of an E55 T4 Bobcat compact excavator and attachments and a T740 T4 Bobcat compact track loader by the City of Washington, Missouri. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Hatchkey?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance accepting the proposal from Vandeventer Engineering, St. Louis, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of a Great and Gray Flight pump by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. Kevin?
Yeah, this is the one of the two projects I discussed at the operations meeting. One was the pump, and the other one is the truck that'll be coming a little bit later on. Excuse me. We're fast tracking both of them. The pump we've been working on for a long time, a couple years. We have overloading issues down on Front Street, as I'm probably pretty sure almost all you guys know that during heavy rains we have manholes that like to pop up and all kinds of other things. What this pump is going to do is it's going to pump 2,500 to 2,800 gallons a minute from the station down to the treatment plant during the high rain events. We've looked at other things. When John came on, we looked at putting in a whole new force main down there. That was well into the $1 million range to do that. So this will kind of take that place. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that in, utilize it during heavy storms, but we're also going to work on the infiltration issues that we have on the whole west end of town. So it's not like we're just going to put this in and forget about everything. We're going to continue, but every year we seem to get more and more rain, more and more issues down in Front Street, so we've got to do something now to help work in the future, so.
Kevin, what size is the pump that we have now?
The pumps we have now are 100 horsepowers, and they just can't, when they all three kick on at the same time, they actually deadhead against each other, so it drops the flow down the way the station is designed. So what we need to do is we need to shut those down, which we'll have only two at that time, and this big one will take over and then move everything down, and the other ones will kick back in for normal operation. We'll keep the one that we have that we pull out will be a reserve pump. So it's not like we're losing the equipment, it'll be a reserve, so when the other ones go down, we'll have that. There's a new controller coming in for the new pump. The existing controller will stay there in place, and that'll be a new controller or replacement controller if one of them goes out, so.
Do you feel 2,500 gallons a minute is enough?
Yeah, like I said, it's taken us a couple years to do this. Vandeventer Engineering is an engineering firm too, so they took all the information from the force main going down to the treatment plant, the size of the force main, how much we try to calculate that we're taking it now, which is kind of hard to do, and they did a bunch of engineering study, and that's what they came up with, is that a 2,500 to 2,800 gallons a minute would do it, so.
Keep the manhole heads from popping.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, I would say it prevents or lowers the risk of a manhole head from popping. I mean, to prevent the risk, you got to stop the source, which is infiltration. So the goal here is let's just say it's happening 4 or 5 times a year. If we could get that down to 1 time every 5 years, I mean, that's the goal we're trying to do. So to guarantee it won't happen is a stretch. You know, I don't want to say that it will never happen, but it reduces that risk. Kind of the same concept when we removed the stormwater pipes down on, was it Market Street, I believe? Not Market, Jefferson. No, I'm sorry.
Jefferson.
Yeah, it was Jefferson Street that we were connected whenever Andy's project was going in. There were 2 15-inch pipes that were connected to the sanitary sewer. Well, that removed, you know, stormwater from getting into the sanitary sewer, which reduced the risk. And I think it showed that. We didn't have it happen near as many times as we did last year. But over a short time frame, you can't really judge that. So it's always a reduction of risk, and that's what this is trying to do, is reduce that.
So you're saying there's a chance, so if there is a chance, should we get a bigger pump?
Well, you have an issue, though, of the size of the force main going down to the actual treatment plant. You can only put as large a pump that the actual pipe itself can handle. So now you're maximizing that infrastructure with this pump. You really can't go any bigger unless we would do a big
Blow the pipes out.
force main project, which is not wise. So
That wouldn't be good.
we're maximizing what we have in the ground. Is
You don't want to
essential.
pressurize it, do you?
It's already a pressurized system. We don't want to overpressurize it.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
An ordinance accepting the proposal from Vandeventer Engineering, St. Louis, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of a grate and gray flight pump by the City of Washington, Missouri. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Patchkey?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtzmeyer?
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Pettit.
Introduced by Councilwoman Pettit.
Okay,
Well, go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead and start.
Okay, so this ordinance is in reference to the airport operations. As we are aware that the city is going to be taking over operations of our regional airport starting March 1st. So part of that was to ensure that we have the dollars available to take that operation on. So I tried to go through and just delineate between the revenues and the expenses and identify them as a line item type situation. Revenue side, you see gas sales, a pretty substantial increase. That is a projection. We do feel like we need to purchase 2 8,000 gallon loads of fuel to get us into the next budget year. This only takes us into October 1st. So once we get in a new budget year, it'll be within the budget. So you'll see an increase there in revenue. Airport facility rent lease, you'll see an increase there, $6,000 as you go down. Keep in mind on the gas sales, it does show a 140 increase, but you also see on the expense side, there's a $110,000 increase as well. So that's an offset. You get revenue coming in, you got to pay for that fuel because it's, you know, bought wholesale. So this would essentially get us through this budget year into the next one. There are a couple items in here that are one-time purchases, which would specifically be the machinery and equipment and some of the small tools. That's some of the assets that we're going to look at purchasing to keep operations going as smoothly as to keep operations going exactly the way they are. So.
It also reflects the salaries that we take on for the 3 employees. There'll be 1 full-time employee on salary, the airport manager, 2 part-time individuals that will also be available.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance amending the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Patchkey?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtzmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment for Schneider subdivision in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Small drop.
Introduced by Councilman Sullentrup.
So this is a very minor boundary adjustment. So this is Terry Lane, East 5th. This is the old Packies right here, existing Packies, and this is Nick's Gun and Pawn. Nick's Gun and Pawn owns both of these lots, and they are, you can see this dotted line is the existing property line. They're moving it about 6 feet to the west there for a proposed expansion so they could meet the new setback. So it's not a major boundary adjustment, but it's just for this proposed expansion so they can meet the existing zoning code.
Do they own the Packey building?
They do.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment for Schneider subdivision in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Pataki?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtzmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Commission, committee, and board reports. Preliminary plat, 18 East 2nd Street.
So this is an actual preliminary plat and final plat together. You can see here Jefferson Street and Second Street. It's not quite on the corner, but it does have frontage along both streets. It is existing today 2 lots. So there's 2 office spaces right here. One, these separate doors and everything, one on each on Jefferson Street, and there's a residence here. And that residence actually is attached to this portion here. This is all one residence, and it's on 2 parcels. That is been grandfathered in. That's just how these parcels, I guess, have laid prior to this construction, and so this is how it's been forever. They are wishing to create 3 lots out of this, and so instead of the 2 as you see today, it'll be lots 1 here to the north for 1 business, lot 2 for the second office space, and then lot 3 is the entire residence. So it is an odd-shaped lot, but that is, the residence does have driveway access to Jefferson Street, but it is actually addressed off of 2nd Street. That's where the deck and one of the doors is at. So this lot 3 contains the entire residence, and it actually is bringing it into conformance by no longer crossing property lines. There's no public improvements required, sewer, water, infrastructure, and street access is all there. So there's no performance guarantee or maintenance guarantee required. So that's why the final plat is on directly after this with no attachments.
Any questions?
What's the reason for doing this?
I'll let the applicant speak on that.
Good evening. My name is Mark Frankenberg. The reason we're doing it is taxes and financing. They can't, right now it is rated as 75% commercial, and as you look, it's about 20% commercial and 80% residential. So to get the permanent finances or a 30-year note, they want to just borrow against the residents, and then the commercial properties will be free and clear.
Any other questions or comments? Anything of Mark?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Motion to accept it.
So we need a motion to approve, accept something. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Waterman to approve this item. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the item. Thank you.
An ordinance approving the final plat of Murphy subdivision in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Introduced by Councilman Sullentrup. This is the ordinance that follows the preliminary plat, previous item. Any questions?
An ordinance approving the final plat of Murphy subdivision in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Pataki?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtzmeyer?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Mayor's report.
Just wanted to remind you of the, well, what is it? The little gathering Thursday evening talking about American Bloom and us hosting the National Symposium. Couldn't figure out what to call it there for a minute. So anyway, we're going to have some just information to share and kind of try to let people know about, we have this opportunity, but, we're going to need some volunteers to help us out. So the conference will come to Washington one day in 2020. So anyway, so if you can make it, it would be great. We're going to keep it to an hour. And but we have some good information. So thank you.
Thursday, 6 o'clock here.
6 o'clock right here. We're even going to have cookies and coffee. And, decaf, but.
Oh, no.
City Administrator's Report.
I just have one item. We do have a meeting that's going to be coming up with the Aquatics Committee. They're going to be reviewing, the consultant's going to be going over the results of the survey that we had. And so I think, don't hold me to this. Chad, do you know did Wayne ever get a firmed up date with them? Are you aware? On Councilman Hunsaker to go over those. It's the first part of March. I don't think we've got a date, but we'll get that out to you if you're interested in attending it. They've been meeting like in the late afternoon. So that's the only item I have. I do have 3 real estate and 1 personnel item to go over in executive session.
Council comments?
Any comments this evening?
City Attorney's Report. Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Scornia?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Hetzke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sulentrop? Heidrich? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all.
Huh?
I need to go ask Chad.
They had a, it was on, one behind, it was on.
Big as a bay.
Behind that.